The wrestlers of All Elite Wrestling returned to Full Gear. A major story centered around the threat of Jon Moxley and his new revamped Blackpool Combat Club has been dominating TV time throughout the last month and a half. With Moxley holding AEW's most coveted gold, it also meant he held a lot of power. A lot of personal animosity in the stories on the show, and I think it's intentional and also highlights how bitter everyone has become in AEW. Storyline wise, of course, I'm not talking about outside the ring, but basically inside the ring, everyone's pissed off recently. Now with that said, let's get into it. Before the show went live, there was a few matches on pre-show. First match saw Anna Jay beat Deonna Purrazzo. Second match saw Buddy Matthews beat Dante Martin, Commander, and the Beast Mortos in a 4-way match. Decent stuff. The third match, though, is the one I really want to talk about because it's so out there. AJ and Big Justice have been in All Elite Wrestling recently, and it's been bizarre because this man and his son, and the Rizzler, by the way, are some of the most over wrestlers on the entire show, which is hilarious. It's very funny to me, and I'm almost shocked they didn't put this on the main show. It almost warrants a main show. Like, I get it. Oh, he's not an established wrestler. He shouldn't be on the main show, but with that reaction, you almost think to yourself, what if he was actually on the main show? The match wasn't bad. Actually, it was a bit fun. QT Marshall did his job in putting over Big Justice. I keep on calling Big Justice. It's AJ. The Rizzler came out. It was hilarious. It was stuff you wouldn't even imagine a couple of months ago, seeing as these guys are all over the TikTok feed, and they still are. I'm very interested in seeing the Rizzler and all these guys in the future. The first match on the show is for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Private Party defended the titles against the Acclaimed, the Outrunners, and Kings of the Black Throne. Private Party has finally overcome the Young Bucks to win the tag team titles. It gives a fresh new approach because the duo have been rebuilt from the ground up. I didn't care much for the Bucks' title reign because they have go-away heat with me at the moment, not to mention they weren't lighting things on fire like they did in 2021 and 22. I obviously understand their major stars to the division, but it feels like the only team that could touch them on the pecking order is FTR. The reason why I mention that is because anytime they have a title match, it feels like they're not going to lose. With the others, it obviously feels like there's more of a chance. Alright, with that said, nice spot here with Turbo thinking it's 1987 and being able to overpower with all the momentum from the crowd. Malachi once again showed what he's capable of, and the power of friendship did work in the Outrunners' favor for a moment. Black and Brody King were the ones who brought the most intensity, and these guys were basically destroying their opponents. The Acclaimed didn't make much noise, but the crowd absolutely hated Max Caster, which tied into something with his own partner feeling offended, especially seeing as he's from around the area in New Jersey, and their problems cost them, leading to Private Party retaining the titles. Decent match, there's not much to say about it. We all knew Zay and Quinn would keep the titles. It's not one of those exciting openers or something that lit the world on fire like the previous AEW pay-per-views had, but it was decent stuff. You would expect this match more so later on before the main event, but they did things differently here. The next match was between MJF and Roderick Strong. This is a bit strange. When Adam Cole returned, he was a face and MJF was the heel. He's back to being the coward he used to be, and it obviously doesn't hit as much as it did 2 years ago, but it's a nice start in changing things and going back to normal. He's obviously been heel for a couple of months now, but it feels like he's just starting to ramp it up more and more. It's also complicated because the story literally needs MJF to be a face, because that's how it was in the beginning, but they're going with what they know better, and that's having MJF as the heel. Roddy was basically his 2017 NXT self here, with MJF constantly bringing up his childhood and tough upbringing. This one was more methodical, with MJF being strategic about going after the arm. Roderick Strong's resiliency was on full display here. Someone who could pull something even in a moment where he's struggling, but from out of nowhere, MJF made him tap out. It was never going to be anything more than that. He even used a chair on his arm, and by the time Adam Cole came out, he was too late. Then tensions rose between O'Reilly and Cole, well, actually it was more one side, with O'Reilly being furious, with Kyle thinking that he's not treating this like a big deal when he's out here tending to a friend of his whose arm got destroyed in a chair. Adam Cole's problems are starting to affect them as well, and it showed here. They're obviously going to build to that, but this match was just there, honestly. It's just there. Something to see on Dynamite. Not much of a big deal, to be honest. The next match was the TBS Championship. Mercedes Moné defends the title against Chris Statlander. Statlander's never lost her title officially. She had a weird heel turn that didn't go anywhere, and similar to MJF, it's going back to things you know. I think a lot's riding on this title match. It's very important for them to actually succeed and put on a show. Not often you see the women's division have classics in AEW, especially recently. This one had Mercedes being very dominant. 70% of the match was her on offense, just delivering all kinds of moves and countering almost everything Statlander had to throw at her. They had a nice story going on, and it felt like they were gonna get to a certain point. It felt like it was building. And she was at a huge disadvantage with her knee and had to fight from a deep hole just to have a chance. But it was always going to be that knee that cost her. Solid match, much better than the last Mercedes matches. This one had more to it, from her opponent to herself. I like this one. I like this one a little more. We still haven't seen that final for Mercedes Moné. AEW has been hyping up for us for months now since her debut. We still haven't seen that yet. I'm waiting for that. We gotta see that very soon. This one, though, is a step in the right direction. It is her best match in AEW up to this point, and I hope we see more of it. Yeah, the ending was bad and kind of weird, but it was still a good match. It doesn't take away much from it. The next match was between Hangman Adam Page and Jay White. Switchblade has a win over Hangman from last month. I thought that was a good match, but looking at this, I still find find it weird how Hangman wasn't booked to go straight after the title. Now it's understandable because of the whole story they're building with Jon Moxley going up against the entire AEW trying to destroy them. But when you look at the high he came from that lights out match, it feels like more could have been done. This one for me didn't hit as hard as their last match. Both men were more about going after each other's leg, trying to make each other tap out. I thought it was a submission match the entire time, but it obviously wasn't. I wish it was similar to their previous one because it didn't need to be all this. It wasn't a bad match, but just something that feels out of the left field. That's the thing with this match, because there was some parts of it that were good, but like they couldn't fully figure it out because they wanted to go into a different direction. You know, the other style of the match they had at Wrestle Dream was way better. I would have preferred to see it here, but it is what it is. Jay White, though, managed to beat Hangman once again clean. He caught him off guard. Hangman thought he had to figure it out, but he clearly didn't. And the feud is still on because Hangman attacked him afterwards. He also assaulted Christopher Daniels, an AEW official, as well as one of his longtime friends. And this was a way to tell you that Hangman's still losing his mind. Other than that, Jay White seems to be rebuilt now as a face. Funny enough, it's just weird how things are nowadays. But again, it's not a bad match, but it just wasn't what I was looking forward to. It wasn't something I was interested in, and it didn't appeal to me personally. They worked hard in there. The ending, the last couple of minutes, was pretty damn good. So there's that. The next match was between Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. Ospreay's been betrayed by his friend. Fletcher was broken out this year in his storyline and seen by Don Callis himself as someone who could take the crowd. He's had a major transformation, changed his look, and it seems like it's gonna bode well for him. With that said, this match was exciting. You could tell Ospreay roughens himself a little more extreme compared to everyone else, and as I've said before, I don't know if it's sustainable. It is working now though. Fletcher looked much smarter than Ospreay's previous opponents. He felt like somebody that was really capable of beating him. There was those cartoony moments in this match, but you could always expect them when it comes to Will Ospreay. But for the first time in a while, his opponents impressed me more, because usually I think Ospreay is like the star of the match. This time it felt different. He came into it thinking he had a chance, and the story of him emerging from Ospreay's shadow was wonderfully done. And that pile driver near the end, the pile driver looked so damn rough. I was confused on how they'd hit it because it was a weird angle, but they did it. Fletcher's presentation was perfect here, and Ospreay did well to make him look much greater. I thought if he was to be taken serious, he needed this win. Of course, it's Will Ospreay, so it's not so bad to lose to him, but with the story they were telling, it had to go only one way. He didn't just beat him, he killed him. It was a crazy-ass ending, the best conclusion on the show up to this point, and my personal pick for the best match on the main show up to this point. Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. It was great stuff. I did think there was too much melodrama, but like once I seen the ending, I felt like, oh, this is nice. And I thought it was great to see Kyle Fletcher beat Ospreay. He destroyed him, he killed him, he did everything he could here, and they established him as a new star on the block. It's nice stuff. Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa celebrated her title win, which is something she had been promising for months until her friend Mina Shirakawa arrived to the US, and she's finally done it. This quickly went south with Mariah doing what she usually does, and that's betray. It didn't work this time because Mina had her scouted, and it only led her down a dark path because she speared her through a table. Only time will tell how this feud goes, but by the looks of it, it's obviously going to be intense because the first thing we've seen is blood. The next match was for the TNT Championship. Jack Perry defends the title against Daniel Garcia. Yeah, I don't know about this one. So, Jack Perry's been pigeonholed in a certain position because of the whole CM Punk thing. I'm personally not a fan of it still being around. The fact that they did the whole story with him being a scapegoat, whatever. Like, it was supposed to lead to some special stuff, but unfortunately in ring he's not been hitting the same. His action is very boring, honestly, straight up. Even though he's changed his character and whatnot, it feels like it hasn't worked in ring. Now, this match felt like it was the one for Daniel Garcia, and I think many of you assumed that as well. I just wasn't interested in this match because Jack Perry's style is not one that I really care for much. The only match I actually liked of him on pay-per-view was the Bryan Danielson one for the title, but here, just whatever. I didn't really care for. I was actually zoned out during the match, honestly. And it's because of the way he wrestles. It's like, we saw what he's capable as a face. Why doesn't he just do that as a heel and make himself more arrogant and do stuff more heel-like, you know? Because he doesn't have to leave his old style. I get he was trying to change as a heel and changing everything about himself, which is a good thing, but he didn't have to abandon what made him famous in ring. And because of that, I thought this match suffered. I don't think it deserved to be dry because it was supposed to be Daniel Garcia's moment. He'd been hyped up, and it didn't deliver. Like, it was just there. They did the spots, you know, kick out, blah, blah, blah. And then Garcia won it, which was a good moment. I liked it. Fans were really happy to see him win the belt because at the end of the day, they thought he deserved it. And it's because he's endured many highs and lows throughout his AEW career. It's finally good to see him actually win a title for once. It was nice. The next match was for the AEW International Championship. Konosuke Takeshita defends the title against Ricochet. Ricochet's been promising this one to be his breakout match in AEW, talking about how he could carry the company and whatnot, and this one had some problems going into it. I think this one needed to be slightly different to the Ospreay match. These two wrestle similarly to him, but it's doable. When the match actually happened, and remember, this match was hyped up a lot on Twitter. It was hyped up. Ricochet was saying he's going to carry AEW and whatnot. Watching this, it would have been better served to be on another show because of what Fletcher and Ospreay did. It forces them to do something else. In addition, the stuff that they actually did here wasn't exactly inspiring. And don't worry, it's not as dull as the last match. It's like seeing Roman Reigns and say Cody Rhodes delivering super kicks during a part of the match and doing a part of what they're known for in the middle of it. It's like they're deviating away from what we know about them to do something else. It got so complicated, and the match ended up being a bit disappointing. They had some high spots in it, but it wasn't energetic. It wasn't that big match you'd expect it to be, because it could have been. It could have been that, but it just wasn't. Takeshita retained, and they just moved on like that. And so do I. The next match was between Bobby Lashley and Swerve Strickland. So the Hurt Syndicate and Bobby Lashley have arrived in All Elite Wrestling. They've actually changed the complexion of the company in many ways. AEW clearly has huge plans for them. With that said, Lashley having Swerve as his first opponent tells you all you need to know in the sense of they're going to push him hard. I don't know if it's going to be world champion hard, because as we all know, there's not many spots around for the guys, but he's in a very great position, seeing as his first official pay-per-view match is against Swerve Strickland. That tells you all you need to know. Now, this match was half squash, half back and forth, kind of back and forth, because it was always leaning towards Lashley with this one. I think we all knew he was going to win. There's a rumor going around that Swerve hurt his shoulder and is going to need surgery. That might have played a part into why the match went the way it did, because even if Lashley was to win anyways, he probably wouldn't have won so convincingly. But the match was decent. It kind of did its job in establishing Lashley as a dominant monster. Swerve looks like he's going to be away for a while if the rumors are true. But regardless, the Hurt Syndicate's going to be taking over AEW in the near future. And the main event, Jon Moxley defended the AEW World Championship against Orange Cassidy. So this is the entire story of AEW at this point. Jon Moxley's taking the world title. He's retired Bryan Danielson from full-time competition. He's reformed the Blackpool Combat Club and renamed them into the Death Riders. The Death Riders basically have one single goal, and that's to take out AEW and build it up in their image. That's what Jon Moxley wants to do. In turn, a lot of the originals such as Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, they have a huge problem with this. It's basically forced Orange Cassidy to step out of his comfort zone and confront the looming challenge ahead. This match kind of showed us where the storyline's heading. So, initially, Orange Cassidy drops Jon Moxley with a couple of shots with the big-ass punches, and it was shocking. He was like, oh my god, is something gonna happen? It's unexpected, and it gave a hot start to the match. They got into the match. Moxley dominated for the most part. He kind of destroyed Orange Cassidy and beat him within an inch of his life. He starts making a comeback, almost actually has the win at one point. Interferences happen, and there was a certain cover here. There was a certain pinfall where it looked very convincing because of the crowd. They almost felt like it was gonna happen here. They thought Freshly Squeezed was gonna win that title and put it in his own backpack, but it didn't happen here. That was the best kick out in the entire show. It was exciting stuff. The match itself actually delivered. It had a certain level of brutality with Moxley killing that guy. He killed poor Orange Cassidy. Now, is it better than their All Out match? No. I actually think All Out was a bit better than this one, but it was a solid match. It was very good stuff. I enjoyed it. It's just like this Death Rider story. It needs a little more to it. I don't know what it is, but they need a little more to it. There's a lot of interferences, you know, Claudio, Pac, Marina Shafir, even Willow Nightingale came out at one point, but we all know how this was going to end. Mox retained. They attacked afterwards. Then a bunch of guys come out. This is where things get a little too crazy. Like, this is some of the craziest stuff you'll ever see for an AEW ending. They actually poured something onto Orange Cassidy to suffocate him. He's knocked down on the mat after Wheeler Yuta cost him the match. Then Hangman came out and Mox was paranoid because at the end of the day, for as crazy as these guys were, you know, Death Riders, they were suffocating their opponents, putting them in plastic bags and whatnot. This guy nearly killed his opponent to win a match, just to prove a point. He's all terrified because he's the only guy in AEW that can match his level of brutality or even surpass it. Then Christian comes in with the Unprettier. He's about to sign the contract and get the title match going, and Hangman just didn't care. He's like, whatever. Then Switchblade comes out, drops him, teases he wants to go after the title. They're running, they realize the pressure is on, everything's getting heated, they're out of there, when all of a sudden, a car crashes into their vehicle. We all knew who this was. Obviously, we all knew who this was. It was obviously Darby Allin. He's out here to go after the title, and my personal opinion is that he's the next champion. But I've seen a lot of people had a problem with this ending. Like, they didn't really like it that much. They try to say it didn't make sense, but I don't agree with that because at the end of the day, even if this wasn't good, in your opinion, it made sense. Everyone is gunning for the Death Riders. At this point, it's Chapter 2. Death Riders establish their dominance. Everyone understands that now. Now they're going after them. That's Chapter 2. Everyone in there had a reason to go after Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. So when people say it doesn't make sense, I don't agree because it does. It makes perfect sense. These guys are a plague to AEW. These guys, all of them, even though they had their selfish reasons for going after them, had reasons to go after them. But the ending was wild with Darby Allin crashing that damn car into there. I wouldn't even be shocked if he actually did it himself. It would be the most Darby Allin thing ever. whatever. But it looks like that title match is gonna happen very soon. I didn't hate the ending. It was just like, you could say it was a bit disjointed, you know, stuff was going on in a weird way, but it made sense. Other than that, great match on here. One of my favorites from the entire night. Orange Cassidy put up a real fight. Mox killed and destroyed him, but even then he almost came out of it the new champion. It was good stuff. All right, that's Full Gear. This event wasn't the best, honestly. It was very mixed. A lot of matches didn't deliver here, and some of them are due to the dynamics. You know, Ricochet and Konosuke, they needed to wrestle on a card that didn't have Ospreay and Fletcher because they wrestle similarly. They give off the same vibe. They shouldn't have been on the same card. Mercedes Moné, one of the best performances in AEW up to this point. I think it's her very best performance up to this point. Chris Statlander gave her a lot more. It was her best match. But my match of the night, personally, is Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. The reason why this is match of the night for me is because they went crazy. Every time Ospreay goes in there, it's cartoony. It's sometimes like a video game, but does it look like I care? Absolutely not. I don't really care because I'm entertained. Like, some of the stuff he does is too much. I'm not gonna lie and say it isn't, but at the end of the day, the majority of what he does is positive to me. I like it. Fletcher was established as a new star here. That's my match of the night. There wasn't anything that was gonna top it. What follows this match, though, is the AEW World Championship. I like that one. Then, of course, the TBS title match. Those three matches were the standout matches from this show. Those were the ones to watch out for if you didn't watch the event. So yeah. Alright, what'd you guys think of Full Gear? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the 450 splash on the like button and perhaps the Death Rider on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.